Hey fellas, Phil/Poly going here, and ladies too. Everybody's welcome, especially the ladies. Good God. Welcome to part 1 of a Purist guide to character building. I'm actually going to get further derailed here in the opening 15 seconds of the video and take a little look at the stray demon, just wandering around down in his little pit. I always get a kick out of eyeballing that guy when I start a new character. It makes me giggle, because it's weird, right? He's down there the entire time, just chilling, waiting for somebody to fall through the floor and do battle. What does he eat? How does he sustain himself? How does he deal with the boredom? Not my problem. My problem is building characters. As mentioned on previous vids, I'm a purist. I try not to get too uppity about it, but I don't use a mule. I don't use a save editor. So when I want to make a new PvP build, it's a fairly time-consuming process. And I literally starting with nothing except the clothes on your back and the goofy little straight sword hilt starting item thing. I think I've gotten decently efficient at the process, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a character building series for purists and just kind of kick that out there for posterity, do a little knowledge share. So this video is going to make a couple of assumptions. One, about interest level, assuming that you are either a purist like me who runs through PvE in order to get PvP builds ready, and you just kind of want to check it out from another perspective or compare and contrast methods or all that kind of thing. Or you're not a purist at all and you're just kind of watching this roll in your eyes, making fun of my ass, wondering why are you not using a mule again? Either one is perfectly valid. Here's my first little tip, and then I'll come back and keep giving caveats. Open that door. Open that door when you run through here. I see a lot of people skip it just to try and get out of the asylum as quickly as possible. I always come back to the asylum the second I am able to get that rusted iron ring, because I love that thing bombing around in Blighttown. So I open that up now rather than come back and have to deal with some of those black knights later. Just come back and get the ring. Nice quick little shortcut. Anyways, I'm also going to assume you're decently familiar with the game, because I'm going to be jumping around in a very disjointed manner. It's not going to follow the logical course of levels or stages or areas through the game. So it's going to be somewhere between kind of like a let's play where you're exploring every little nook and cranny and kind of showcasing the glory of Dark Souls PvE. And a speed run, even though it's not quick at all. So probably a few hours to get this character ready. So somewhere between there is an expedience component. We're going to focus on getting the gear that you need as quickly as possible, leveling up in a sane manner, and all that kind of thing. It's a purist guide to building characters, hence the title. So on that note, coming for you, Asylum Demon. Let's go. And off we go. So, just quickly, an overview on the build. Here's what I'm starting with. The theme of this build is going to be faith and spears. I'll talk to that a little bit down the way, but important to point out here, that Master Key. Take the Master Key. Good God. It is God's gift to Lordran. If Gwyn's gift to Lordran, if expedience is the name of the game. And in fact, I'm going to point out every time that I use the Master Key and then cite all of the grief it saved me in terms of being able to disrupt sort of the logical flow of things, being able to take shortcuts, skip ahead. I wish I could kiss the Master Key. And actually that brings up another caveat. So I don't want to have to footnote every fucking thing that comes out of my mouth in terms of, I'm sure this is redundant to most players, or I'm sure this is general knowledge at this point. Like with that Master Key thing. I don't want to have to just append these disclaimers on everything, so I'm going to make another assumption that maybe everybody's listening with fresh ears. So when you hear something like, take the Master Key, it's kind of like, ah, yes, take the Master Key, and not, really, take the Master Key? So just a little something to keep in mind, a little slack to be taken, because this is a character building guide. There's going to be some basics. Out of the asylum, find ourselves in the shrine. I fire off a couple quick levels in dexterity and endurance. Why? Well, that gives me a great opportunity to talk about leveling up. I always kind of do a little bit of footwork up front. A little bit of homework, I guess, instead of footwork. Spend some time on Muujin Monkey, play around, determine the build. So like, when I start a new build, I know exactly what it's going to be. I know where my stats are going to end up, and I have kind of my first 30 of them spec'd out and where I'm going to put them. That saves me a little bit of cognitive load sitting down at the bonfire and having to think, okay, should I put it in faith? Should I put it in endurance? Should I put it... Saves a lot of that stuff. And it gives you sort of a nice little roadmap, because that first, 3 dozen or so levels come fairly easily, come fairly quickly, too. And so being able to fire those off, know exactly where they go, saves you a lot of time. It's amazing, actually, how much time it saves you. I gotta pause this thought because, lo, my first instance of the Master Key. This is my all-time favorite door that the Master Key opens in the entire game. Because the key to that door is at the very, very end of Blighttown. And I love coming down here and grabbing the Dragon Crest shield. Sometimes I use the Astora Straight Sword if I have a faith component, but I will always come down here immediately and grab the Dragon Crest shield, because that is a slick pickup right out of the gate. That is a badass little shield, even late in the game. But the key to that door at the very end of Blighttown. So think about how much of the game you would have to actually progress in order to come and get your Dragon Crest shield. You'd have to beat the Capra Demon to get the key to the depths. You would have to go through the depths. You would have to go through all of Blighttown. Even if you didn't take on Quelaag, you'd have to go all the way through it, take the elevator back up, and come out on this Valley of Drake side of Blighttown to get that key. That is ridiculous. So if this was the only door the Master Key opened in the entire game, I think it would still be the most championship caliber starting gift. Oh, Master Key, I wish I could kiss you. Again. And so now that I've concluded my love letter to the Master Key, I'm making a run for this Firekeeper Soul, which I always do, regardless of the type of build I'm going to make. I mean, it's stronger Estus. Estus is like alcohol. The stronger, the better. But this kind of ties back into the leveling thing I was talking about too, having those first 30, 35 levels spec'd out so you know exactly where they're going to go, because it helps you budget your soul currency. I got 87 souls down there in my counter. That's nothing. Got no humanity. So man, death at this point is a free homeward bone. I'm making a suicide run down here to grab this soul. I have no intention of even trying to survive the return trip. I just grab it and take a flying leap off the edge into that cold, cold New Londo water. And I have no intention of going back and trying to recover my 87 souls. I mean, yes, I'm out 87 souls. Shit, I guess I can't buy any prism stones, but I guess I'll just have to mend my broken heart. And I think speccing out your levels, kind of speccing out where you're going to spend your first little bit of soul intake, helps a ton in being able to use death as a tool, use death as a means for traveling around Lordran, especially when you're running around picking up gear. I'll do that in a couple other places too, where you strategically stay at one bonfire, run somewhere else, grab whatever it is you're going to grab, intentionally die, and find yourself conveniently back at that initial bonfire. Before you have the Lord Vessel, before you can kind of warp around willy-nilly, death is pretty useful. Death don't mean a thing if you don't have a huge soul count. I guess you're undead. Death don't mean a thing anyways. But it's very useful. And that's something I see speedrunners doing all the time too, are sort of those strategic bonfire / death combos. So I mean, as long as you don't get hung up on saying, I didn't die any times through this playthrough, or I only died 3 times through this playthrough, it's pretty liberating. You can say, you know what, I died 1,247 times on this playthrough, but that was only to travel around. Probably an exaggeration. And the other thing I do always, which is kind of happening right now, is I just bomb around Firelink Shrine picking up all those miscellaneous soul items. I see a lot of people overlook these things, because I mean, like this one that I'm about to snag is a Soul of a Lost Undead. That's 200 souls, not much. We almost lost that much when we just took a plunge in New Londo for that Firekeeper Soul. But there's a lot of those lying around, and those are great, especially in these early levels that you're picking up, as top-offs. So, say you have almost enough to spend another level. Maybe you fire off a Soul of a Lost Undead to get you to that next point, and then suddenly you're walking around with 103 souls instead of 3,502. Wherever the line is. You can use those as breakpoints to sort of get you to your free homeward bone death state. The other thing that's always kind of front of mind during these initial Gubbins Gatherings soul scavenging session, wow, that was a lot of alliteration, is what weapons are lying around just in the vicinity of Firelink Shrine. What can I pick up super quickly that will get my build close to kind of what it's going to be? I like to always start using the equipment that I'm going to be using down the road as quickly as possible, as I'm sure everybody does, so you can get used to it, you can kind of get acclimated to it. But in a lot of times there's parallels, right? Like say you're putting together a, I don't know, dragon greatsword build or something like that. You can't really just go get that initially. But, lo, there's a handy little Zweihander just sitting over there in the graveyard. Maybe you're putting together a Silver Knight Spear build. That's something you can't just go grab right out of the gate, as a purist at least, because you don't have your mule. But hell, you can go grab a Winged Spear, and those have decently similar movesets, or at least are in the same class. So maybe you can go pick up one of those things and start getting used to it. You can start playing with it to sort of develop into what your build is going to be down the road. So I'm always thinking about that. On that note, I'm going to be using a Partisan. Why didn't I go pick up the Winged Spear? Stats. The Partisan actually has lower stats than the Winged Spear, and I didn't want to invest some extra stuff in Dex just to use a practice stick. Otherwise, I'd be rocking a Winged Spear right now. I seem to be having a little trouble with these hollows here. But otherwise, that was good timing. So we've got our Firekeeper Soul, we've got our Dragon Crest Shield, we picked up the miscellaneous items around Firelink and New Londo, whatever's accessible, Valley of the Drakes. That's kind of my foundation for any new build, any new character that I'm putting together. I will pretty much interchange that beginning portion. That's my foundation. Then it starts to get a little bit more specific. So the next thing that I do is do a little bit of research on what gear I need. Rings, weapons, armor sets, and try and piece together locations in as efficient a manner as possible. Efficiency, so this does take a little bit of planning, this takes a little bit of foresight, because the running around kills you as a purist. Not being able to warp immediately to go gather up all this kind of thing is absolutely devastating. So for example, I want a Partisan, it's going to be on the Divine Path, and I want a Wolf Ring. Oh look, those all happen to be in the Moonlight Butterfly Forest, and so I'm gonna go do that. And then on the way back to Andre, I'm gonna drop off my Ember, upgrade my Partisan, activate the elevator in the parish, etc., etc., etc. So it becomes sort of a route for you to take. And I have found that unless I sit down and actually plan that out, it is a disaster, because it'll say like, okay, I'm gonna go. You know, I'm ready to go down into Blighttown and farm some leeches for green Titanite shards so I can upgrade my Partisan on the Divine Path. Oh shit, I forgot to pick up the Wolf Ring back in the Moonlight Butterfly Forest. And then you have to run all the way back, and it just becomes pretty crippling when you have to just do all the back and forth. And I think that's where you really start to hemorrhage time as a purist in sort of, I don't know, run here, run there. I mean, that is really the time bomb. Man, I am having a rough time with these hollows as well. Time bomb in terms of a bomb that explodes time, not in terms of it goes off at a certain time. A time eater, a time suck. And so a logical question would be, if, as I'm sitting here talking about time and time sucks, if time is such a precious commodity in the runs of a purist trying to get these builds to PvP, why the hell am I bothering killing all these stupid little hollows? You do not have to run through the game and kill every single enemy. You've done this so many times. There's two answers to that, at least for me there are. One, this is how I do my griefing on NPC hollows. No, so PvP is not the most important thing. You are kind of playing through the game, so you just like to fight and take these guys out every time. More importantly, I just mumbled off into nothing there. More importantly, as you go through this so many times, you kind of start to develop these weird senses, these acute awarenesses of how many souls you have and how many souls you will have when you get to a certain point. Like these numbers stick out in your mind, right? I'm sure anybody that's done this enough and has experienced this is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. It's kind of eerie and kind of cool. An example would be, I know exactly, I am going to have 87 souls when I get up from Firelink Bonfire the first time. The route I take through the Asylum, I spend 3 levels, and, you know, starting as a cleric, because I have a lot of builds that start as a cleric, so level 2, I spend, you know, souls to get 3 levels, and when I get up, I will have 87 souls. That is the same 87 souls I lost when I took that dive earlier in the video into the New Londo Lake. 87 souls. And it's just one of those weird things that sticks with you. Same thing in here. If I had, I screwed up my route a little bit. I varied my route. If I'd killed the guy behind the bookcase and then killed the 4 dreglings down that hallway, I would have had exactly enough souls to come back, buy that bottomless box glitch, kill the merchant, level up, and I would have 12 left over. 12 souls left over. That is so stupid, but I think stuff like that is just so cool and so fun. And it's so jarring, too, when you get into those situations where the numbers aren't what you think they are, and you're kind of like, wait a minute. It's supposed to be 87. It's supposed to be 12. It's supposed to be 316. What did I do wrong? What did I do different? It's like, you know, deja vu in the Matrix. You see the cat walk by a second time. You're kind of like, something changed. Something's different. And appropriately bringing that up, this right here, when I pick up these firebombs, is actually where that stops as well. Sort of where the familiarity stops, where you start to really concern yourself with efficiency, or at least I do, at least. I'm going to kill these guys because these guys will chase after you, and it starts becoming what enemy is going to aggro and come and track me down and stab me in the back as I try and run past them. I'm going to go up these steps here just to see if there's a vagrant. I always like to be surprised if there's a little, you know, weird gelatinous orb with tentacles sitting there spitting at you. That's always kind of cool. It wasn't this time, so alas. So now, if we can actually get in the door, is where the efficiency kicks in. Do I need to go up on the rooftop and get that soul item and kill those hollows? Nope. Do I need to kill these knights? Nope. Do I need to mess with anything except advancing and getting to the Taurus demon? Do I need a blue tearstone ring? Nope. So this is kind of where the pivot happens. And I only start killing enemies that are going to chase me down. Let that guy go. I don't need a Havel's ring at this point. I think I actually come back for it later after I activate the shortcut. But for now, I'm going to get me a lizard. I'm going to bust through the fog gate and take on the Taurus demon. Actually, I think this guy sucker punches me in the back. Yeah, look at that. I remember that. But sort of that point that we just crossed in the Berg, for me, is the threshold. That's where you get down to business. That's where you start ignoring enemies that are not worth it. Oh, look at that guy inside the fog gate. He's trying so hard. But I mean, that's where the minions become no longer worth it. The time expenditure to put them down is not worth the souls that they give you. And so your kills become much more strategic. Is this guy going to chase you down and stab you in the back like that douche on the stairs? Or is this guy have a chance for dropping an item that I want? Or does he drop a disproportionately high amount of souls? Or something like that. That's where you start making your kills. And start ignoring everything else and running through. So with that and this boss fight, I think I'm going to cap it. This one was a lot of just high-level stuff. And this one, like I was saying with the Firekeeper Soul and the Dragon Crest Shield, this is the foundation. Pretty much every build I put together follows this process through to the Taurus Demon to a T. And it is only from here that you start to deviate a little bit. So we'll get into some specifics with this build on the next one. Talk a little bit more about strategies. Definitely let me know what you think. I know the audience window is fairly narrow on this one because there's a million videos like this out there already. So let me know what you think. If you're a purist that appreciates this or goes through similar processes or has similar experiences, let me know. If you're somebody on the other side of the fence that is just gonna give me the look skyward, that's cool too. But let me know. If nothing else, it gives me something to do while I'm PvEing and trying to put these builds together. Still working on that. Thank you, as always, for checking it out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments, subscribe, the whole shabazz. And we'll see you next time with our weird blue-haired faith spear. Oh, I didn't talk about that. I'll talk about that next time. See ya.